Hello, I'm Bob Weir with another interview of People in the News in North Texas. My guest today is Tracy Scott Miller, Vice President of the LISD Board of Trustees. Thank you for being here, Mr. Miller.
Thank you for having me, Bob.
My questions will be strictly related to the $737.5 million bond proposal, which will be on the May 6th ballot, asking voters to approve or deny the proposal. Please tell our viewers how the amount was arrived at, and if approved, what will the money be used for?
Well, thank you, Bob. Appreciate you having me. The journey of where we've gotten to determine the amount of the bond and what will go into the bond started really officially last year in July, where the board met for a day workshop and really went through a list of data. This is called the Facilities Assessment Study. That's a document that shows the status of all of our systems in schools within LISD. Roofs, paint, anything like that. We combined that with our demographic studies and then got together as a board and created a priority scheme based on certain attributes, like priority one being safety, a system expiring that could be harmful, like air conditioning units that would not be replaced and that would not be safe, heating as well, and also things like capacity, where we have capacity or growth in an area, a certain feeder pattern or a certain part of the community that we would need to do something there to invest in the growth that's taking place. And as you know, this is an area where we're getting a lot of growth and we've got a lot of infrastructure that we need to invest in. So that's how we started as a board collectively. There were meetings that existed prior to that. I'm on the facilities committee. The staff put together a lot of data for us based on some community input. We then put together and had a couple meetings as a board. I actually attended one from Canada online, but we then got a facilities assessment committee where we had appointees and the administration selected people. These are community members, teachers. No trustees were on it. No staff took an official role. They were table facilitators, but Dr. Rogers and his staff were the experts in presenting, and board members could come and watch, but we took no active role in the process until it was presented to us sometime in January what the findings were and the recommendations of the 80-person committee.
Was it 80
About 80,
people
yeah.
who were on the advisory committee? All right,
Yes.
and
that roster is out on the website.
all right, that did not include school board members
none.
or the superintendent?
No, he was not he did some some presentations to talk about things like school finance and what our needs were and that type of thing, but he did not play a role in voting on what to recommend to the board.
Okay, how about this? When was the last bond issue and how much was it for?
The last bond issue was in 2008 and it was for $697 million. This bond is 737.5, and if you look at it for being adjusted for inflation, this is actually smaller than the 2008 bond, and it's the longest period of time that we've had between bonds in our history.
Is that right?
Yes.
Really? And when a bond issue like the one in 2008 is passed, and now you're coming to this bond issue, is it because that money was used? That money's been used already?
Yes, that money's been used or encumbered. There are some remaining projects, about $22 million, that will be finished this summer, and that's why I say that the money's encumbered for those capital projects. There's some refreshes of some 20-year-old campuses and that type of thing. But yeah.
All right, part of the proposal directs that Hedrick Elementary in Louisville be torn down. Why is that necessary?
Well, it's important that Hedrick Middle School and Elementary be torn down. They're old schools. They're not safe schools. The whole facility assessment committee toured those schools and some other schools, and they made the decision. I know that there were some folks that felt very strongly it should be rebuilt, and that's because really they're kind of thinking about how uncomfortable it might be for some students. But the fact is we have a lot of capacity in the schools around there. Now, in fairness to the community, we need to communicate what our plans are for where those kids will go, but those schools just are not safe. The elementary school, there are probably 4 different air conditioning units. They share the lunchroom with the middle school. To rebuild 2 standard middle school and a standard elementary school would take over 28 acres. We have 21. So to provide an elementary school that's similar to when if you go to Bridlewood over here and have the same facilities and the outdoor playground that we're provide a standard, and they have a middle school with the track and field and a band capabilities, so that all those kids have a fair equal access to the same services. We just decided that after consulting a lot of folks, and this is a very emotional decision, we decided that it was not in our best interest to rebuild the elementary school there for many, many reasons. And it's hard, but in the long run, I think the community will be satisfied because of what we do put into the middle school there and what the services that the kids are going to get at the other elementary schools.
All right, let me move on to the tax portion of this. I'm sure most people want to know how much is expected in their tax bills if this passes. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so, some of the estimates are about $16 a month for a $300,000 home. I'll say average. I know that's not average to some, but if you look at the demographers saying that, 10, 15 years ago, you can move here and a starter home was $100,000. It's running up towards $300,000. It's about $16 a month. That, by the way, is just about that's our worst case, really most conservative scenario. That's about just over a penny more than what our rate was last year before we dropped it to 38. So we were at just over 43 and a half. Worst case, it would go back up to 44 and a half or so. But again, there's a lot of dependencies. A bond does not mean the board has to go out and write to build everything and buy everything. There are about 4 or 5 steps before we can sell bonds and build any facility going forward.
Will some of this money be used to build athletic facilities?
Yes, there will be some facilities that will be upgraded, some track fields where the turf will be replaced. There will be some skyboxes that were built by staff. And then there will be some multi-activity centers, if you will, that can be used for community and other activity events. But the thing that people need to understand is that our job is to graduate students. The state and the community hold us to that responsibility. And sometimes where people look at, should we invest in sports facilities or band facilities or theater, and yet it's those types of things that keep students in school. And so students who are in school are more likely to be learners. If they're in school versus not, we can measure their learning, and we have a greater opportunity to graduate them in 12th grade and get them to go on. And so it's those extracurricular activities that allow those kids to stay in school. And in fact, it's because of those things, our gifted and talented, our special needs, and our overall education system and extracurriculars that people come to LISD for. So all we're doing is investing back into that, making sure the systems that we have are safe and that they're equal for all students, regardless of where you go in LISD or what your socioeconomics are.
All right, let me ask you this. If the bond proposal was to be turned down, how would that affect the school system?
Well, I think that it'd be a big mistake to have it voted down. I'll talk about impact in a second, but this is an investment into the future of our kids. 67% of kids coming into the schools now in Texas, 5.5 million in public schools, are minority kids. It's up to us to make sure that we protect everything we hold to be true, to invest back in those schools, to make sure that they're safe. The safety features that we have to harden our campuses will not be there. The technology that we need to put in the hands of our teachers and our staff, and technology to protect the information that we have, will not be upgraded because we don't have the money. And it's very complicated in the way the state has it set up between your maintenance and operations and your INS or your bond or interest and sinking fund. So we will look at other options after that and go back to the drawing board, but this investment in our students and the infrastructure that we have is required, and I think that you'll find this board has been very diligent in doing the right thing and putting this forward.
And this will be on the ballot on May 6th.
It will.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of territory here. If they like to, people would like to find out more information, where would they go?
They can go to our website. There is a page right on the front page here. I feel like I'm Carl Rove here, but they're going right to the front page about, you can go to the Facilities Assessment Committee, and just remember this, in a world where state funding is going down and growth is happening, we need investment to handle that growth, and that's what we're asking for, is for parents and community members to think about investing in our students. That's what this is about. And it's nothing more than focusing on our future generations, which we have a constitutional responsibility to do in Texas.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Miller, for being here and explaining this to the folks out there. And
Thank
I
you,
want to
Mr.
thank
Ware.
you for all you do for the
Thank you.
education system.
Appreciate it. Thank
And
you.
thank you for watching.